So my name's Mallikarjun. I work with Tech Mahindra Limited. Those of you who have not heard about us before, we are a system integrator based out of India. Not very big, not very small. Essentially, we have numbers which kind of cater to volumes, but we are known for our expertise in some very niche areas like mobility testing, network, security, IoT, DevOps, and the like. And we obviously have those dedicated practices which look at performance engineering, network testing, and security testing. On that front, the topic that I've kind of picked up for discussion today is non-functional testing. Now, a very grossly misused term, I would say, non-functional testing, essentially because there are a number of terms that are overlapping. When I say overlapping, non-functional testing is kind of interchanged with volumetric testing or performance testing, which kind of confuses the testers in a way. We have all heard of two types of testing, functional and non-functional. There's a lot of effort and time, energy spent on functional testing, whereas non-functional testing, we are only touching the surface in terms of grazing the surface about what non-functional testing is. It remains a gray area till date. It is a very niche area, but what exactly is non-functional testing? So everything that is not functional in nature, which are not defined by the user in terms of requirements that he specifies that a system or an application needs to do, that falls under the bracket of non-functional testing. Given the time that I have today, I'll touch upon three topics, three questions. So what is non-functional testing, which I just answered? Secondly, what are the important considerations that you would make before you embark on a journey of doing non-functional testing? And thirdly, and importantly, what are the types of non-functional testing? What falls under the category of non-functional testing? So firstly, what is non-functional testing? Everything that is not functional in nature, non-functional. What would I need to do non-functional testing? The common perception or belief is that you would need a set of tools which generate load, and you have your application, and bingo, you end up with non-functional test results. Well, not exactly. You would probably want to look at three important parameters: environments, requirements, and obviously the skill set. When I say skill set, I mean what kind of skills are required to execute non-functional tests. Is it simply usage of the tools, knowledge of the tools? Not essentially. You're essentially looking at people who understand applications, technologies, who are able to decipher what goes on within a system. Because being able to generate tests, being able to generate volumes is probably a given. But what would you make out of those tests? Whether the system is performing, whether performance or stability is improving or degrading as a result of those performance tests? Not understood. Second question, environments. In most cases, we would generally look at functional test environments and say, why not generate load on this particular environment and see if it gives us the desired performance test results? Not really. Why? Because any kind of non-functional testing or performance and load testing on your functional test environments doesn't kind of give you the same level of view as it would on production systems. What you would have 10x vertical and horizontal scaling on your production systems is not an exact replica of what you would have in your test environments. The test environments would be significantly scaled down in terms of both size and the number of servers, the number of apps that sit within a particular hardware system, etc. And lastly, and most importantly, obviously, requirements. What I mean by requirements is, with regards to functional testing, you would essentially have a user or a designer sit down and make a list of requirements. With non-functional testing, it is slightly a more complicated. It requires a more mature process in terms of understanding what is actually going on behind the scenes, what actually the system is doing in terms of processing all of the requests coming in from the users, what is happening with the back-end processes, what is the behavior of the interfacing systems, what impact do the interfacing systems have on the performance of the application, and so on and so forth. So, taking into account these three parameters, what are the different kinds of non-functional testing that you can actually do? Now, according to general terms, there are a number of non-functional tests. I would want to actually graze upon 4 or 5 of them only at this point in time. I would call them performance, obviously, is one of the key ones. What do I mean by performance? Response times of applications. What does the application user actually experience in terms of response times, whether the system is kind of catering to his response times, whether the user logs off and exits a particular transaction before it even completes. Secondly, scalability. How quickly can an application scale up to cater to volumes of a user? So in some applications you would probably have internal applications, for example, would probably have a few hundred users. But think of a retail application, for example, it would have millions of users who log in and log out at any given point in time. So you would want that application to be able to scale up in a very smooth fashion rather than spike up and down frequently. Thirdly, resilience and recovery. Obviously, when you're looking at critical systems and applications in production, you would want a system that kind of can recover in the event of a failure without causing any visible impact to the end users. So you would not want an application which actually is able to show the effect of the failure to the end user. So you would have one system going down, one server going down, the similar services would come up on the secondary server or the primary server. Thirdly, you would also talk about availability, which is essentially how long an application is available to the end users without causing any interruption in services. Kind of important to again something like critical to retail users or retail applications which require continuous ongoing support in terms of availability to end users. Beyond these 4 or 5 different kind of non-functional tests, there are a number of different kind of non-functional tests as well. We talk about compatibility, documentation, baseline, but essentially these 4 are what I believe are the important ones with regards to non-functional testing at least. So I would like to kind of bring my session to a close with this particular topic. Thank you very much.